Hello everyone. Recently I got out a video that apparently reached a big audience. And just like a lot of videos, it was just a conversation between my camera and myself, because I'm pretty lonely, about what the job life actually is in the software engineering world. If you didn't watch it, I highly suggest you to do so. And this piece of content did spark some new questions, one of which made my brain tinker for a few days, and it was this one. Is being a software engineer more stressful? Question asked by nullnerd 7890. nullnerd7890, that name. And I answered by, that can be an entire video on its own. Because first of all, this touches something very personal about myself. And also, it is a pretty interesting question. Before coming into this career path, I never even thought about it. For me, the idea of getting paid playing around the computers already was out of this world. And I never even thought that anxiety or stress would be even close to be on the career path. But it turns out, after a very, very deep Google research, that apparently software engineering can be considered a stressful job. The thing that I liked about this question is that, is it more stressful? And I guess that means more stressful than other jobs. Let's be very honest and not sound like spoiled kids, that we are, by the way. Compared to certain jobs, software engineering is a mind-bogglingly safe space to be in and very comfortable. If you compare that to a soldier, full-time firefighter, full-time entrepreneurs not being able to pay the bill every month, software engineering is a very okay position to be in. But I think the question is compared to the average job. And to that answer, sorry to sound insanely not entertaining, but it honestly very depends. Software engineering, we talked about in the last video, is such a gigantic field. And so, just like anyone without a personality, I also asked my current best and only friend, ChatGPT. That's not true, obviously. If my best friend were watching this, hi. Hope you're doing well. And that ChatGPT just says the same thing, essentially. It's yes, according to some variables. And this is the point that I wanted to make today. Software engineering is so vast that in the same year, if you change jobs, you can be in an insane position with very, very demanding deadline, with a technology that you don't know, with direct connections to your clients or investors, if you're in a startup, for example, and all of a sudden be drafted in a company that has really nothing to do with software. They have software engineers because it's one of the tools of the company, using it as they please, having a 2-hour workday because the tasks and the tickets that you have really are that easy for you, and you can just go home and have your peaceful 9 hours. And that's just very true about this job. You hear about that all the time. Like, I don't know if you heard about this. There is this entire Reddit page that I don't know too much about, but essentially people in the software engineering space juggling between different jobs at the same time. Because yeah, you do have some niche positions. Those do exist. And are those positions the norm? I don't really know. I would say I don't think so. But it is something you can absolutely do. And while talking about that with colleagues and also making research online, my very naive brain thought that there was a direct correlation between pay and reward and the inconvenience of a job. For example, a job that you do almost nothing and work only 2 hours a day is obviously not going to pay as much as a staff engineer at Google working 9 hours a day and watching over 30 employees. There is obviously going to be a difference here in terms of pay, salary, and rewards. But that's not really the case. There are nowadays a lot of software engineers in so many different fields, and I don't think the question is software engineering stressful in general? But I think the question should be targeted towards particular industries. I don't know if you know this creator, but Pirate Software, an ex-Blizzard employee, has a lot of short videos. I don't really watch him live on Twitch, but all about the video gaming industry and how insane the effort to reward ratio was. And that's something you hear a lot about the video gaming industry. I never was in that industry myself, but it's something you hear. Also, another example, the marketing industry and the web agency world. That's also another good example where those jobs where the employees are driven by passion, where there is this sentence that I also said myself, but in any case, this is a hobby, and if I can get paid doing it, better to do so. Some companies will take advantage of that because there are just so many people who want to do these creative jobs, and there will always be a queue behind the door for you to get in. And the web agencies specifically, where I was a part of those for multiple years in the past, you are directly confronted with deadlines, with brand new projects every time. And when in the beginning of this video I mentioned that this question has a particular importance to me, is that I always thought about myself as a stressed out guy, but not really in general. The stress that I have, I would say, is functional. It's more of a sense of urgency. And it's something I think everybody should have in this job, specifically handling deadlines. But some companies are going to take advantage of that. If you love your job, you obviously would like to create the best code as possible, putting it out there, And while still having that sense of urgency, you want to do a good job because this is what you love to do. And so you enter in this vicious cycle between defending your honor, your ego, your knowledge, trying to put something out there, but also know in the background and all that noise that you should get paid for what you are doing. So in those two industries I just mentioned, yes, it can be a very stressful job. And again, I'm talking about compared to the average job. I don't pretend that I know everything about this career path. I'm only 24 years old. I'm not even considered a senior developer, but with the tens of companies I worked with, either freelance or full-time, I think there is a direct correlation between the stress that you can endorse to yourself and also just managing is something that we can also talk about for so long. Two engineers in the same company working on the same product can have two very insanely different experiences if they have two drastically different managers. This is also something that you have to put in count, and this is not something that you can control apart from the interview time, obviously, where you can judge that does that sound like a toxic place to work at? But yeah, all of that to say, is software engineering stressful? It depends. But it is also your job to communicate that stress with the many different people you are working with, whether it is your direct manager or your client as a freelancer. A slow employee or a slow contractor will always be better than a burnt out employee or contractor. That's just very true. And even though it is a job that is rhythmed by time and new technologies and always staying sharp on what's new and what's not, at the end of the day, it's just a couple of people behind their screens. And that's just it. Apart from your mental health that you are supposed to take care of, there is not really that much on the line. You cannot wish to have an exciting career without ups and downs. You have to have variations, contrasts, and stress is going to be here if you pretend to have this roller coaster of a career. Alright. I think that's it for this conversation. Again, if you have any questions, just like this one, for example, do not hesitate to put them down below. It's always nice to see conversation spark in there. And apart from that, I wish you a glorious rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon on the internet. Bye-bye, everyone.